Hey everybody, welcome back to the OffStudio, where we talk about whatever I want to talk about, because it's my show and not JC's. So, today is going to be a interesting day. I actually thought, I don't know if you guys remember this, like do you guys remember show and tell back in children's classes, back in elementary? So I figured that today would be one of those interesting moments where I take everybody down memory lane while I do it with myself, as you can hear. If you might hear the cars walking by, I hope my sound doesn't pick it up, but if you do, by all means, there will be some ambient noises from the outside that may or may not come through. But yeah, today we're gonna do a show and tell, and I figured this might be a really fun time to do that. So today, what are we going to show and tell? Actually, as a quick little thing, I actually like to collect. I like to collect a lot of things. I think it's very, typologically speaking, kind of, how do I put this? Very in bad SI of me to keep mementos a lot. At a very early age, I kind of already knew that I was gonna become a hoarder if I wasn't careful. Therefore, I had to do something about it. And so, with that in mind, I was like thinking of all the different things that could be practical about a lot of what I'm doing. Therefore, I became a collector for very small things that I figured had a very strong emotional connection with because there was so much memories kind of stored in them. And that's kind of what I want to go with right now. And in this particular case, they happen to be um Funko Pops. If you guys have heard of them, they're those like little. Okay, this is one example. I don't know if you guys know about this guy, but it's the Joker, of course. But these are what Funko Pops. They sold around here in Canada. It became like a huge craze. I have friends who like collect heavy collectors way more than I do. But for me, I actually have a very strong reason why I collect the ones that I do collect. They don't have any particular connection with one another. You'll see the references are completely different and they're completely out of left field. But that's because I was the one who provided the explanation and the reason why, let's say, I wanted to buy a certain Funko Pop, and the reason why I did that is because the character that I bought symbolized a certain milestone in my life, and I decided that it was going to be that kind of memento saving thing. So I don't know if other people like me do this, but if you do, I think it's very very fun, and it also gives me like a very strong physical tether to like a reminder almost of like where I am in my life, and like before I even purchase any kind of Funko Pop to symbolize it, I have to know that I've actually done this and I've started this. Therefore, the completion allows me to move on to like the next milestone. So these milestones, of course, are related to self growth, and that we're gonna talk about it. First one, like I said, is the Joker. He is a particularly old model of the Funko Pops. If you guys want to do it like a makeup tutorials, so like as you can tell, this is my guy. He's really cool. He's really nice. I the reason why I bought him is that I really wanted it was he was a symbol of me accepting my weirdness, basically. Joker, as you guys know in the comics, he's definitely quite, if not most understood, if not misunderstood at the same time. He's very as the namesake suggests, very into humor. And I think this was at a period of my life uh where I experienced like a lot of darkness, and I experienced a lot of how do I put this? It wasn't just so much as darkness, but I experienced a lot of like unhappiness and a lot of unpleasantness. And the Joker, because of all his madness, to me this was such a big deal to buy because it was like a sign that I had finally made peace with all the chaos, and that I actually decided that instead of having to kind of go against it, I was like, why not embrace it? And so he's a constant reminder that this thing was a sign that I made that decision with myself, that I was going to be that kind of guy, and that I wasn't going to be ashamed of who I was anymore, and that I was going to be putting myself out there the in all the colors and all the craziness that he likes to portray himself to be, and that was how it was gonna be. I know, right? It's kind of it's funny because I'm looking at it now. I haven't looked at it so close, so you can see that there's a pause every now and then because I'm like feeling it at the same time as I'm saying this. Anyways, moving past, the next Funko Pop I actually ended up buying was Jiminy Cricket. Now, Jiminy Cricket is actually kind of an interesting thing. I think it's a reference. It's more so the reference behind Jiminy Cricket as to why I bothered to buy this guy to begin with. He represented Pinocchio's conscience, if I remember correctly. And that kind of did a big impact on me making the decision of purchasing this guy. So for those people who are interested in seeing him a little close up right there, Mr. Jiminy Cricket. Also, he comes with a nice, like, cute little umbrella, as you can tell. Work. Jiminy Cricket, I believe that when I bought him, it was me when I fully acknowledged the value of logic in my life. And I know this might seem like a dumb thing, but as a feeler guy, it was something that I struggled with a lot, like being able to, I guess, reconcile my rather. I would feel a lot, but wasn't able to really process it well. And Jiminy Cricket kind of symbolized the beginning of me. Well, let's put it this way: if Joker was for chaos, Jiminy Cricket was like reconciling my feelings with order and control, and it was reconciling these two kind of entities in me, that they represented a level of, well, you got the chaos and then you got the wisdom to kind of come in to make the right decisions. Jiminy Cricket was also there as a sign that I needed to start protecting me, because I think this was bought at a time when I think I struggled with boundaries a lot. I didn't know, like, I was giving so much of myself to people around me, and that wasn't actually becoming productive, nor was it making me any more effective as an individual, especially in my growth path. I figured that, Jiminy Cricket was a very important figure. Reminder, sorry, these guys aren't really, how do I put this? They're not, people might look at them as like, oh, you got trophies, and maybe that's what they are. Maybe they are trophies. And so, Jiminy Cricket. After that, I kind of went out of left field, and I don't know if you guys played. I don't know if it was Dishonored, which I didn't play that game. I just watched the cutscenes. Or was it Assassin's Creed, which I also didn't play the game. I watched the cutscenes. It was a Plague Doctor. Ta-da! Plague Doctor. Let's see, like back in the makeup tutorial world, Plague Doctor. So he's my lighting is really bad, so I hope my webcam zoom kicks in well, and then you guys get to see this guy for what he is, which is pretty nice. Now, this is kind of an interesting choice. I actually didn't even. Yeah, these was one of the ones that actually wasn't my first ones. I actually still have two more that I still have yet to buy, but they already have pre-symbols that haven't been accomplished yet, so we're moving there. But the Plague Doctor was such an interesting purchase because he represented healing. He represented me reconciling with the scars of my past, the scars of my present, and the supposed future wounds that I may have in the future. So the Doctor is pretty much my trophy for the milestone of acknowledging and being self-aware that I need to exercise self-care. He's a reminder to me that, one, he looks pretty badass, looking like this, wearing that mask. Plague doctors back in the day during the bubonic plague of the early ancient world of the Western world, I mean, they had to put themselves in harm's way a lot of the times. They were kind of front runners, and in terms of really trying their best to try to make sure everybody around them was taken care of. So he represented the capacity for myself that I allowed my heart to open up again and accept putting myself out there in a different sense. If Joker was there to put myself out there to embrace the chaos that I really am, the Doctor represented the ability for me to heal others, the capacity for me to become the potential to be a good friend, let's say, or to be a good person, to take charge of taking initiative. It's granted, a lot of that I credit my friends in helping me out in realizing this, but I had to buy him as a reminder of that I am capable and I am responsible for other people when the time calls for it. And I shouldn't feel bad about that, nor should I feel like guilty even, because one, he represented self-care, he represented caring out for others, and he represented right, the capacity for, I don't know, for like, yeah, for health, for healthy stuff. And he ties in too with Jiminy, because Jiminy is like the world of order and conscience, and something that I would say that tends to be kind of ignored and in favor of my lizard side of my brain, BMA. And so these two kind of go hand in hand because they both represent, like, yeah, the order as well as the healing. So you got somebody looking out for me. They basically, if you put them together, basically my parents, my internal parent, I mean, like the inner dad of me that tells me that this is what I need to do to be productive, so that in a way it's like a sign in my adulthood that these things, that life is hard, but I have a spot on this planet to provide some assistance in my own way, and I'm not going to feel ashamed about that, and I'm not going to feel bad about it either. And those things kind of represent each other. And so when these three happen, it was like, oh wow, this is so cool. I ended up happening. And then another milestone kicked in. This was a time when I started going to the gym. This is kind of like a thing. And again, with COVID happening, gym life is totally off the rails right now. But about Popeye, which is kind of like my second, no, out of all of them, I think like the third actual pop culture reference. It is like good old spinach, and I think you guys can kind of have an idea of what he represents. So he represents being healthy, taking care of your body, being aware that you are inhabiting a body. Popeye was a character back in the day, used to be black and white if I remember correctly, and I know I have not watched an actual episode. It was way before my time, but he was one of those guys where like he grew strong every time he ate spinach. So apparently he was a collectibles item. Let's see if they can zoom in and see Mr. Popeye right there. Popeye be living it. Oh man, I love this guy. When I bought him, it was a sign that I needed to switch up my healing from conceptual and psychological to physical. And also another thing about him is reconciling my feelings with masculinity. There's a lot of anger I found about being a guy. And it wasn't so much as anger because I hated myself. That wasn't really the case. It was more so just I hated the portrayal, the depictions, the identity that represented kind of manhood. And as a feeler guy, you always have to have that issue of like, what does it really mean to be a man? What does it really mean to be me? Or what does it really mean to be anything? And Popeye was such a big part of my life in a way. No, hold up. Let me backtrack. Popeye, the Funko Pop, not Popeye the actual cartoon, because the actual cartoon was way before my time. But when I saw this guy at the store, I was like, huh, maybe I need a constant reminder that I need to care about my health. And so it was like a sign, like when the minute I bought it, I felt like exhilarated too, because I felt like I had an injection of like, how do I put this? An injection of energy, if that makes sense. Motivation, maybe it's maybe it was willpower. I mean, he represented a lot of things that was nice. He also represented like that provider type of concept of a guy. Like, look at him, like he's just bicep for days and like spinach for life. It's just working it. And in a way, it was like a way for me, yeah, like I said before, it was to reconcile my feelings about masculinity. There's so much hate towards what it is to be a guy now, and what it means to be an example for other people. Mind you, I never had any role models. That was like a thing. I grew up with a family of matriarchs. I grew up knowing that these women that were very strong and independent all had like very submissive husbands, and I didn't really fit the mold. One, I wasn't really a submissive person. And I wasn't also like, I was as extroverted because the women became like focal point in my life, as examples of independence and self-sufficiency and like being domesticated and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, trying to figure out how I'm gonna be this way when I wasn't even seeing strong examples of what a good guy was supposed to look like, especially when I was a kid. So I kind of, yeah, so I grew up without a role model. I grew up, that was it, that quote of be the change you want to see in the world. I know it's cheesy, but like in a way that's what ended up happening because I didn't really have, yeah, I didn't have an example to draw from. I couldn't look up at anybody's, like, I couldn't relate to a lot of guys in my life. I couldn't relate to a lot of the guys I see in pop culture, and I felt like I was kind of mixed in with, like, I would take little pieces, I could relate to pieces, but I couldn't relate to all of them. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I might as well just be me. Clearly I can't really rely on anything other than what I could bring to the table. So that was what it was going to be. And of course this was before, and I haven't even factored in my Christian heritage, where it was like, or Christian history, where I actually delved into and looked for actual good examples. And I usually don't like to talk about that kind of things, especially on a platform like this, because the focus is typology. But because it's the off studio, I'll make a slight exception. But yeah, I had to dig and had to find some strong, good role models because I didn't have any in the physical, tangible, modern world that I could just take. So I was like, and so I had to make peace with that. So Popeye represented a lot of that kind of things. Yes, he was about a lot of health, but now that I think about it, holding him now, I just felt like there's a part of a psychological shift in this as well. I used to have a hard time befriending guys. I don't know if that makes any sense, but for some reason I gave off this vibe that like other guys just found me odd. And I don't know if it was because I was good at handling my feelings. I was sassy and I was like very, yes, girl, work. I was always that. But I feel like guys too, we kind of forget that we also need to hear positive reinforcement. So when I guess when the guys that I'm around realized that I'm pretty good at giving them compliments too, that things started kind of smoothing over. And I think Popeye, when I bought him, was like a sign that even I had to open my heart again to a different kind of side of me and a different angle, perspective, world that I thought I had closed myself off of due to just resentment or irritation or whatever. So that's it. And so therefore I have these four, and I keep them on a shelf that I see every now and then. I had to keep them organized somewhere else because my room right now is not exactly the most spacious, and it's annoying me that it's not like that. But we will eventually, the full renovations of the room will finally make sense, and it would be, well, at least according to my liking. But for now it's been rather chill, it's been rather fun. With that being said, thank you guys so much for taking this moment to like listen to me ramble about my Funko Pops. I think I actually made an episode about this, only about them. But with that being, moving on past that, do you guys keep any mementos? Do you guys even bother with this kind of stuff? Like, how do you guys take note of your growth progress? Because I take it through this. Apparently the ones I actually want to buy next to signify my next growth is like kind of like a limited edition now, so I don't even know where to find them. But once I get the new Funko Pop, maybe you can do an unpacking episode or unboxing of, from Amazon, and be like, ooh, what happened? So who knows? But yeah, thanks again for watching, and till next time, stay tuned for tomorrow's new episode of, oh yeah, this week's episodes are gonna be chaotic. I did not. It's gonna be chaotic. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be crazy, and it's gonna be very exciting. A lot of changes are happening in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for JC's episode because I heard that one's gonna be fun too. So, bye.